Hey guys, Christian the Haver Card Man coming back at you with another video today. This time around, we are starting off with our Blackwing deck profile series, much like the Prime Kids one, in which we will start off with a base deck, and we will work on constructing it until we feel it is the best possible version it can be. And I will tell you, boy, this is a rough draft. I have not had much experience playing Blackwings, so this is kind of something new for me. I've looked up a few other deck profiles and combo tutorials and stuff, and I've kind of made my own little version of it, so yeah, before we get into that, be sure to hit that like and that subscribe button if you enjoy the content, as well as hitting that bell notification so you can stay updated on all future uploads like this. And while you're at it, be sure to check that description for all of the links to our Facebook, our Twitter, our Instagram, and also the Coalition of Scrubs, another channel I am a part of with 7 other Yu-Gi tubers, where all we do is just produce Yu-Gi-Oh content. So, anyways, let's go ahead and jump right into the deck profile. Like I said, this is a very, very rough profile, so do not take this thing to heart. This is not going to be anywhere near the final product. I've done some playtesting with it. I'm still kind of working on learning the Blackwing combos, but from what I have right now, I've actually been having a decent amount of fun with this deck, so let's go ahead and hop right into it. So we'll start off, we're playing 3 copies of Simoon the Poison Winds. Just a really good starting play. It's actually a 2-card combo. If you get this plus one other Blackwing monster in your hand other than Oster the South Wind, you can use his effect to banish one other Blackwing monster in your hand to place one Black Whirlwind from your deck face up in your spell and trap card zone, and then you can either send this card to the graveyard or immediately after the effect resolves, normal summon it without tributing. So you're playing your Black Whirlwind with your Simoon, and then immediately normal summoning it to trigger off the Black Whirlwind effect to search for a Blackwing monster with attack less than his, which he is 1600, so you'll be able to search out, once again, that Oster, the South Wind. If you can search for him, that is a plenty golden play. Or if you already have him in hand, you can even go for a Blackwing like Blizzard the Far North, or, you know, any of your other really good plays. And then the nice thing is his normal summon does not count towards your normal summons for the turn. So if you have Oster in hand, or you searched out Oster and you have him in your hand now, you can normal summon it to get back the banished monster that you banished with Simoon and go off into place from there. Next up, I'm also running 3 Assault Blackwing Kunai the Drizzle. I've noticed a lot of lists don't play this, and there's probably a pretty good reason for him, but I haven't really been too down on him that much. You can special summon him from your hand by tributing a Blackwing monster, and then if he's summoned that way, he's treated as a tuner monster while on the field. And then once per turn, you can target one synchro monster you control and declare a level from 1 to 8, and it becomes that level until the end of the turn. So I just kind of saw this as another potential to go into my Blackwing Full Armored Master, which is like the main card of this deck, especially extra deck wise. Let me know if I'm wrong down in the comments. He might be a little too slow or a little too situational, but I like running him in there, so I've got him at 3. I probably shouldn't in hindsight, but you know, we're gonna stick with it for now until we find something better. Next up, we're running 3 Blackwing Chris the Crack of Dawn. The Blackwing monster, this is with actually quite a few of the Blackwing monsters, that if you control a Blackwing monster on your field other than the monster that you're trying to special summon, you can special summon it from your hand. And you can only do that once per turn with Chris the Crack of Dawn, and then once per turn it cannot be destroyed by spell or trap effects. So it's just another level 4 that you can special summon to your field to allow you to go into more synchro plays. It's also the same reason we're running 3 of Blackwing Boreal the Spear. You can also special summon him from your hand if you have another Blackwing monster. He does piercing battle damage, and that's about it for him. He's a 1700 body, and Chris is a 1900 body. So if you normal summon either of those and you have Black Whirlwind on the field, you can search pretty much your entire deck for whatever monster you're looking for. Next up, we have Blackwing Zephyros the Elite, just kind of a must-have. He's not super great in this archetype, but he's nice enough to have in there, because if he's in your graveyard, you can return 1 face-up card he controls, take the 400 damage, and then special summon him. But only 1 copy of him, because this effect is only once per duel. So do keep that in mind. That's the reason you only really need to run 1. Next up, we've got 2 Blackwing Oster the South Winds, our level 4 tuner. And with him, when he's normal summoned, because he cannot be special summoned. So when he is normal summoned, you can target one of your banished level 4 or lower Blackwing monsters and special summon it in defense position. And then it has a graveyard effect where you can banish this card from the graveyard to activate one of the following effects. You can place black feather counters on 1 Blackwing Dragon you control equal to the number of cards your opponent controls, which isn't necessarily super useful, but we do have Blackwing Dragon in here, so it could have some potential. It's just not as useful as the other effect, which is placing one wedge counter on each face-up monster your opponent controls that does not have one. The nice thing about this is it combos perfectly with our Blackwing Full Armor Master, who does already give monsters wedge counters when they activate their effects. But if you use Oster to give all of your monsters wedge counters, you can choose to once per turn target one monster your opponent controls with a wedge counter and take control of it. And then also once per turn during the end phase, you can destroy all monsters on the field that have a wedge counter. So if you take one of your opponent's monsters, use it for material or even just attacking power, then at the end of your turn, you can just blow up their whole, like, whatever monsters are left. Boom, I mean, you're getting full value out of Blackwing Full Armored Master, being able to steal a monster, being able to destroy all those monsters, and Oster just really makes that possible by banishing from the graveyard to give all monsters your opponent controls wedge counters, all face-up monsters, I should say. But that's really not too hard to do. Most monsters are face-up. Next up, we're running 3 copies of Blackwing Gale the Whirlwind, our level 3 tuner for the deck. Also has the effect to special summon himself if you control a Blackwing monster other than Gale the Whirlwind. And once again, and that is actually not a once per turn on him, not even a soft once per turn. You can just special summon as many Gale the Whirlwinds as you want, as long as you control a Blackwing other than Gale the Whirlwind. And then once per turn, you can target one face-up monster your opponent controls. That target's attack and defense become half its current attack and defense. So he's actually pretty good if you could special summon him out to your field, lower one of your opponent's monsters' attack and defense, and then use him to go into a synchro play and take out whatever monster you just took down. And that is a pretty good play. It's also really good just to have that level 3 in the deck that you can just special summon for free. Because there are also a couple of link monsters that we play in here that he is actually useful for, mostly Crystron Needle Fiber. But we'll get into that later. Next up, we have one Blackwing Steam the Cloak, another one-of copy because he is another once per duel effect. But whenever he leaves the field, you can special summon one Steam token, and then if he is in your graveyard, you contribute one monster to special summon it from your graveyard. That is the once per duel effect. Does make him pretty useful if you can find ways to recur him onto the field multiple times and just spam out those tokens. Use those for link fodder or synchro fodder, whatever. You can just spam your field with tokens if you can use them right. But only a one-of copy of the deck once again because it is a hard once per duel. Next up, we are playing 2 copies of Blackwing Blizzard the Far North, our level 2 tuner for the deck. Cannot be special summoned. Once again, when it is normal summoned, you can target one level 4 or lower Blackwing monster into your graveyard and special summon that target in defense position. So it's essentially the same as Oster, just 2 levels lower, and it only special summons from the graveyard rather than the banish zone. So it still has its uses for sure, and it is definitely worth running in the deck. It is a 1300 body that is notable for a Black Whirlwind. When you trigger that off, you can still search for things like the next card, which is 3 copies of Blackwing Harmatan the Dust. And the reason I love this guy is because he's a level 2, not a tuner, oddly enough. And if you control a Blackwing monster other than Harmatan the Dust, you can special summon it from your hand. You can only do that once per turn. That is a hard once per turn. And then when he is normal or special summoned, you can target one other Blackwing monster you control, increase his card's level by that monster's. So he can be an actually really good opening hand combo if you have Simone, the Poison Wind, plus Harmatan the Dust in your hand. You use Simoon to banish your Harmatan the Dust, play your Black Whirlwind, summon the Simoon, search for Austere, and then once you play Austere, you can use Harmatan the Dust will come back onto the field, make himself a level 6, because you can just select your Austere and he gains 4 levels, so he becomes a level 6 instead of a level 2, and you can use him for the synchro play instead and save your Simoon the Dust, the Poison Wind, for something else. Like, you can use it for different synchro play. If you want to, you can throw in, actually, there's a couple of good rank 6 monsters that would go good in this deck, if you so choose to use that combo. Myself, I'd rather just go straight into that Blackwing Full Armor Master, but you do you. So next up, that is it for the Blackwing monsters. Now we are on to the hand trap monsters, who also happen to be tuners, which makes them very valuable in this deck. We have 3 copies of Ash Blossom and Joyous Spring, obviously a necessity for most decks. It is just that good hand trap that can counter just about every deck. Not necessarily like counter it, I guess, but definitely slow it down. So Ash Blossom works really good against just about any matchup, and it is a level 3 tuner, so we can still use it for this deck in more ways than one. So definitely worth having the 3 copies. Same thing goes for Effect Failure. Got 3 copies of those as well, just our level 1 tuner, but obviously being able to slow down your opponents, and the fact that it is not once per turn, so if you draw more than 1 copy of this in your opening hand, you can stop a couple of monsters' effects on your opponent's field, so that actually makes it really handy. So that's all we got for the monsters. We will go ahead and move on to our spell cards, which is the last 10 cards of this deck. We have 3 copies of Lure of Darkness, because all of our Blackwings are dark monsters, and it just allows us to search through our deck that much more. And then if we banish one off of that, we still have Oster to recover the Blackwing monsters. For most of them anyways, we can't recover Simone, the Poison Winds, or Kunai the Drizzle. But that is okay. The rest of the monsters we can easily recover with him. And then we are also running 1 Pot of Avarice, as it is limited to 1 on the Forbidden and Limited list right now. Really good for this deck. It's kind of hard for this deck to recur resources, so being able to send those 5 monsters back into your deck and then draw 2, that is a huge bonus. It allows you to maybe even potentially get a combo extender and go back into some more plays after you've already gotten your full armor master on the field and a couple other things. So really just overall handy. And since it is almost a monster mash deck, it is not an issue to get 5 monsters into the graveyard on the first turn of this deck. So definitely good to have in this deck. We're also running 3 Called by the Graves, because we really don't want to get hit by that Ash Blossom Joyous Spring, especially not on the Black Whirlwind. We really need that to go off. So it is definitely important to have this card at 3 in your main board. And lastly, we have, like I mentioned, the 3 copies of Black Whirlwind. Just whenever a Blackwing monster is normal summoned to your field, you can add a Blackwing monster from your deck to your hand with less attack than that monster. So this is a huge search card for the deck, and it does stack if you have more than 1 copy of this on the field, because it is not at all a once per turn. They tried to kind of balance it by making it to where it only triggers when the Blackwing monster is normal summoned. But if you have Simoon the Poison Winds in your opening hand, you're getting off 2 normal summons per turn. So if you happen to open up a Simoon the Poison Winds, plus 1 other Blackwing monster, plus a Black Whirlwind, which is honestly a little easier than you would think, then you can get double search off Simoon the Poison Winds. You can search 4 monsters in 1 turn by getting the double trigger off of Simoon the Poison Wind, plus whatever else you normal summon for that turn, which is most likely going to be Oster. So you can go and do some serious plays with that. That is super important to the deck. Must run at 3. There is no other option with Black Whirlwind. So that's it for our main board. Let's go ahead and move on to the extra deck. Starting off here, we've got 2 copies of Blackwing Full Armor Master, because I have had a couple of times where this guy did get countered by Solemn Judgment. While it may be unaffected by other cards' effects, it can still get negated while being summoned. So that is definitely something to be prepared for and be ready. So definitely run these guys at 2, because there are other ways people can remove it too. It's not that hard to beat a 3,000 body. It's also not super easy. So that is what kind of makes him valuable. He's a 3k beater with that's unaffected by other card effects. And then once again, he can take monsters with wedge counters. He can take control of them, or at the end of the turn, he can destroy all monsters on the field that have a wedge counter. So super valuable there. Hands down the best card of this deck. Next up, we have 1 copy of Blackwing Dragon. Just kind of a backup plan if you can't quite hit that level 10. He's not too bad. His effect is kind of lackluster. If you would take damage from a card effect, you can put a Black Feather counter on it instead. But it loses 700 attack for each Black Feather counter on it, and then once per turn you can remove all Black Feather counters on it, and target 1 face-up monster your opponent controls, make it lose 700 attack per counter, and then your opponent takes equal life, or takes damage equal to the amount lost on that monster's attack points from the counters. Next up, we've got Assault Blackwing Raikiri the Rain Shower, running it 1 copy. Just kind of helpful, because if it's synchro summoned using a Blackwing monster, it becomes a tuner on the field. I mean, a level 7 tuner, that's okay. You can definitely use that if you end up with a level 3 non-tuner for some reason, which there's not really any in this deck. But once again, if you have that Kunai the Drizzle, you can turn it down to a level 5 and then go into your full armor master. But and then once per turn, you can target cards your opponent controls up to the number of other Blackwing monsters you control and destroy them, so just some good removal. And then we have Chidori, the Rain Sprinkling. This is just the beater for the deck. 2600 base body, but it gains 300 attack for each Blackwing monster in your graveyard. Also, it can be treated as a tuner while on the field if it was summoned using a Blackwing monster. And then when it destroys a card and sends it to the graveyard, or when it is destroyed and sent to the graveyard, you can target 1 winged beast type synchro monster in your graveyard, except Assault Blackwing Shorter than Rain Sprinkling, and special summon it. So he's pretty decent, nothing too crazy there. Only need the 1 copy. Next up, we've got 2 copies of Blackwing Tamer Obsidian Hawke Joe, and with him, you can target 1 level 5 or higher winged beast type monster in your graveyard and special summon it. So if you've got one of your synchro monsters in the graveyard, or if you've got Simoon or Kunai the Drizzle in your graveyard and you want to special summon it back out so you can go into more plays, you can do that. And then during either player's turn, when your opponent activates a card or effect that targets only this card, or when your opponent targets this card for an attack, you can target 1 other Blackwing monster you control that would be an appropriate target, and that effect card, attack, whatever, now targets the new target. So basically, you can just switch targets off of this guy into one of your other Blackwing monsters if you really want to protect him for some reason. Next up, we have one copy of Blackwing Armor Master. He cannot be destroyed by battle, and you take no battle damage from attacks involving this card, so he's pretty good there. Can still be destroyed by removal spells, but you know what, that's alright. And at the end of the damage step, if this card attacked a monster, you can place one wedge counter on that monster, so it does work well with Blackwing Armor Master. And then you can remove all wedge counters from your opponent's monsters. The attack and defense of those monsters that had wedge counters become 0 until the end of this turn. So you can either, if you can't get in your full armor master, you can use this guy to at least take your opponent's monsters down to 0 attack points and take them out. Or you can play your Blackwing full armor master and just take it over, destroy it, whatever, instead of removing the wedge counters. So only need one of him though. He's just kind of beneficial if you really can't get anything else. Then we have two copies of Blackwing, the Thumbless Starlight. Gives you your extra normal summon per turn. Just when he's special summon, you can inflict 800 damage to your opponent, then one face-up monster your opponent controls loses 800 attack and defense, so that's a decent enough effect. But then also, once per turn during your main phase, you can normal summon one Blackwing monster in addition to your normal summoner set. So that is pretty nice there, especially if all you can get into right away is level 6, but you've got more Blackwings in your hand, you've got Black Whirlwind on the field, you can use him to normal summon your extra Blackwing monster and search for something else. So two copies of him makes it pretty handy. Nice little kind of combo extender there. Then we also have one copy of Iced Beast Zerofyne. Really easy to get 2 level 4 wing beast monsters on the field. I mean, especially if you got Boreal the Spear and Chris the Crack of Dawn. Super easy. I mean, if you just normal summon Chris the Crack of Dawn when you got Black Whirlwind, you can search for Boreal the Spear, special summon it, and get your Iced Beast Zerofyne. And the nice thing about this is once per turn, you can detach one XP material from this card and to negate the effects of all face-up cards your opponent currently controls. So it basically becomes a Dark Ruler no more. The only unfortunate thing about it is it can be countered by an Apollousa. But if they don't have an Apollousa, you're good to go. And then if you do, it gains 300 attack for each face-up card currently on the field except this one. So it can get some really good attack power. And these effects are applied until your next standby phase as well. So you can negate your opponent's monsters for like 2 turns, and so that's actually really super powerful, especially if they don't have an Apollousa. You can essentially just destroy their board with an Ice Beast Zerofyne alone, but it doesn't come up all the time, so it's only really a 1 copy in this deck. And then we also have Abyss Willer for other rank 4. If you know you're going up against another graveyard deck, or you're going turn 1, that definitely helps you out to be able to stop them from going to their graveyard plays, if that's like the only thing you can do. Next up, we also have 1 copy of Boreal Sword Dragon. Just makes it really easy for the OTK because you can blow up your opponent's board with Full Armor Master, next turn go into a Boreal Sword Dragon and attack for game. And lastly, for the extra deck, we have 1 copy of Crystron Needle Fiber. Now, I'm honestly kind of debating on cutting this guy because he hasn't been super helpful for this deck. Even as a combo extender, because when he's link summoned, well, it requires 2 monsters, including at least 1 tuner, which is not hard to do for this deck, especially with stuff like Gale the Whirlwind, which just special summons itself out, and it is a tuner. But when it is link summoned, you can special summon 1 level 3 or lower tuner from your hand or deck in defense position, but it cannot activate its effects this turn, so you can get more material on your field to go into link plays, or synchro plays, or link plays, I suppose. So that is kind of handy, but it's not like super imperative of an effect. I'm trying to find a case where this is actually a really good combo extender, or even just a combo play in general. So if anyone has any plays with Crystron Needle Fiber, please leave it down in the comments below. I will be sure to incorporate it into any live duels that I do with this deck. And then the second effect isn't really super useful during your opponent's main phase or battle phase. As a quick effect, you can banish this card to special summon 1 tuner synchro monster from your extra deck, which is treated as a synchro summon. You can only use each effect of Crystron Needle Fiber once per turn. So right now, we're not running any tuner synchro monsters in the extra deck, except for ones that can become tuner monsters. But that's only when they're on the field, so that effect isn't super powerful just yet. I might be able to find a use where that's really good, but I haven't seen it yet. And actually, I did forget there is one more monster. We have Beelzus of the Diabolic Dragons. Just another good boss monster, 4,000 body, cannot be destroyed by battle or card effects. So if you get this on the board, it's going to be really hard for your opponent to get rid of. And then other monsters you control cannot attack, that's fine. I mean, with a 4k body, that's not bad. And then once per turn, you can target 1 monster your opponent controls, and any battle damage your opponent takes from attacks involving this card this turn is halved. And you also change that opponent's monster's attack to 0. And if you do, gain life points equal to its original attack. So this is a card that can beat over anybody, cannot be destroyed by battle or card effects. It can still be removed by something like a Nightmare Unicorn, so do keep that in mind. but really it has the ability to beat over anybody. So that's all I got for you guys today on this Blackwing deck profile. I really hope you enjoyed it. If there's any obvious changes you think I need to make, let me know. I'm going to be messing with this thing as much as I can, doing a lot of play testing, trying to make it better. But for right now, this is what it looks like until I get to that. So once again, I hope you guys enjoyed this video. If you did, remember to hit that like and subscribe button down below. And remember to have fun and make your move. I'll see you guys all in the next video. Peace out.